Gonna probably be my last video. I'm gonna go turn myself in to see what's going on. They talking about I'm a fugitive, so they just raided all my houses.
A body discovered in the desert, a deadly diss track, and a notorious figure casually boasting about murder. These aren't just urban legends, they're chilling realities. I was bagging my victims in closets. Yeah, I was bagging them in dark places. These are the words of Eugene "Big U" Henley Jr. recorded on tape, detailing his ruthless actions. Federal investigators claim Big U operated in South LA like a powerful cartel, using a nonprofit as a front while harboring a deadly agenda behind the scenes. The feds also allege he's directly responsible for the murder of a rapper signed to his label. But how did they know? How did the authorities piece it all together? Let's break down how Big U allegedly orchestrated this killing, and why federal prosecutors believe they've got the irrefutable evidence to back it up. Big U wasn't just a figurehead in South LA's street scene, he was a titan. He had the money, the influence, and a music label under his control, all while presenting the image of a philanthropist through his nonprofit. With this much power, Big U was able to command silence and loyalty, scaring even the toughest into submission. But according to federal prosecutors, this empire came at a heavy price. A price that led to the murder of Ryan Williams. Williams wasn't just some random victim. He was an artist with Big U's label, Unique Music. But before he ever stepped into the world of music, he was a standout athlete at Crenshaw High, known for his skills as a wide receiver. What made his death even more disturbing? Williams wasn't just another artist in Big U's circle, he was close to Big U's family. He had played alongside Dion Henley, Big U's own son, who now plays for the LA Chargers. The connection was personal. So, what pushed Big U to take such a drastic, violent step? According to court documents, the situation that led to this murder wasn't random. It wasn't just an act of senseless violence. It was tied to the complex web of power, control, and loyalty that Big U had built around himself. And now, federal investigators say they have the concrete evidence to prove it. It all began with a diss track. Ryan Williams, an artist on Big U's label, dropped a song that called out the powerful figure from South LA. According to federal investigators, Big U didn't just see the track as a personal insult. He saw it as a direct threat to his authority and reputation. To him, it wasn't about the words, it was about control, power, and sending a message to everyone in his circle that he was still the boss. Prosecutors argue that in response, Big U orchestrated a cold, calculated move. He allegedly lured Williams into the desert, shot him, and left his body to be found along Interstate 15 like discarded trash. This wasn't a random act, it was personal, with business and power intertwined in one brutal, fatal blow. The news of Williams' death reverberated through Crenshaw. The next day, the high school football team, where Williams had once been a standout receiver, posted a somber tribute on Instagram. It is with heavy heart that we announce the passing of Ron Williams, one of our very own wide receivers of the Crenshaw family. He was a very special guy to all of us. The message carried even more weight for those who knew the deeper connections. Williams wasn't just a teammate to Dion Henley, Big U's son, but someone who had been close to his family. NBC reached out to Dion Henley for a comment, but there was nothing. No statement, no reply, just silence. And who could blame him? His father was being named as the person responsible for the death of his former teammate, someone who had once been like family to him. It wasn't just messy, it was a nightmare. In the face of all this, Big U didn't go into hiding. He didn't retreat into silence like many might expect from someone facing such serious charges. Instead, he did the one thing that shocked everyone. He went live on Instagram. In a moment where most would have stayed quiet, Big U took to social media, fully aware of the weight of the situation, but seemingly unbothered by the storm surrounding him. It was a bold, unexpected move for a man tangled in such a dangerous and high-stakes game.
Gonna probably be my last video. I'm gonna go turn myself in to see what's going on. They talking about I'm a fugitive, so they just raided all my houses.
Big U's departure was anything but quiet. No tears, no apologies, just a man who had been pushed into a corner, unapologetically claiming that the feds were now at his doorstep. As the authorities raided his homes, one person, a man known as 600, stood with the cops, filming it all. But Big U didn't just stop there. He dropped names that linked others to the unfolding case. According to him, 600 wasn't alone. He pointed to Whack 100 and Loose Cannon, suggesting they were part of a concerted effort to build the case against him. In his view, the feds didn't initiate this case. It all started online. With the world watching, Big U laid it out. When they raided his properties, they weren't just asking about him. They were looking for connections to Whack, Loose Cannon, 600, and all of the noise online that had built momentum. His anger was clear as he confronted those who fueled the case with their clicks, likes, and reposts. Everyone watching from their phones helped this case move forward, he said. All of you who promote this stuff, liking and sharing, are just as guilty. He argued that if anyone had a real issue with a black man, it should be handled face-to-face in the streets, not through online clicks. Big U was adamant that the case wasn't just about him. It was about the larger culture of the internet and the power it held in shaping real-world outcomes. When he looked at the people arrested in connection with the case, he couldn't understand it. How are they arresting people I don't even talk to? That's a built-in lie right there, he stated. In his eyes, the feds were stacking charges and making the case appear bigger than it actually was, hoping to force people into turning against him. But Big U wasn't backing down. He made it clear, you want to arrest certain people? Fine, but they'll have to flip on me, and that's not happening. I won't go down that way. It wasn't fear that drove him, it was defiance. He continued, if you want me, you might as well go get 600. It's not going to work. He stood firm, doubling down on his position and pushing back against the narrative being built around him. Then came his parting message, I've been nothing but a help to my community. But I guess this is the price of being black and trying to make a difference. And just like that, Big U turned himself in. But he didn't walk into that courtroom quietly. He dropped names, pointed fingers, and made it clear to the world that he was going in on his terms. What followed shocked many, the indictment. It wasn't just about one murder. The charges were massive: murder, human trafficking, extortion, wire fraud, and, to top it all off, a full-blown RICO case. Big U didn't delve into the specifics, but he made one thing clear: I did nothing wrong. But the paperwork told a different story. The feds painted a picture of Big U as the head of a criminal organization, a network that used fear, fame, and money to maintain power. They claimed it ran like a shadow government through Los Angeles, leveraging his street reputation to control everything in his orbit. The man who once ruled the streets with influence and fear now found himself in the fight of his life. The feds aren't just going after one crime, they're targeting an entire criminal network. Under the RICO Act, they've linked every move made by Eugene Big U Henley and his crew since 2010, officially dubbing it Operation Drawdown. This operation didn't just focus on Big U, though it pulled in a total of 10 people, some of whom were already incarcerated, while others turned themselves in as the news broke. One of the first to quietly walk in was Brian Maya, no fanfare, no social media buzz. But then came two more names: Sylvester Robinson, known as Vi, and Mark Martin, called Bearclaw. Both were arrested on March 19, 2025, and charged in the same case, part of the same crew, accused of running the so-called Big U enterprise. The feds described this group as a well-oiled machine, operating like a mafia. The charges against them are sweeping: murder, extortion, robbery, human trafficking, sex work exploitation, fraud, and illegal gambling. Just when it seemed like the situation couldn't get more intense for Big U, the feds unveiled a game-changing piece of evidence: real audio recordings. These weren't rumors or secondhand stories, they were recordings of Big U's own voice. In one clip, he's heard discussing confronting Whack 100. But this wasn't just talk. The feds say Big U wasn't alone. He was reportedly rolling deep with the notorious Rolling 60s, all dressed in black, searching for Wack in the streets. The confrontation escalated, and in the audio, you can hear Wack 100 calling out, "I see you, Eugene Henley. I see you." While Wack is reportedly armed, his voice betrays fear as he realizes the situation is spiraling out of control. It was clear the stakes had risen to an entirely new level, dragging Wack 100 right into the narrative. Naturally, Wack fired back, this time on Clubhouse, publicly denying any connection to the case. He laughed off Big U's surprise at the raid, mocking him with, "How did they know? How did they know?" According to Wack, the whole situation felt like a circus that Big U had built himself, a mess entirely of his own making. While Wack was firing shots online, Big U found himself behind bars. The judge denied him bail, deeming him too much of a risk to be released, and locked him up in federal custody. No house arrest, no ankle monitor. He would stay there until his hearing on March 31st. His arraignment was scheduled for April 8th, and although he had not yet entered a plea, the charges were being read aloud in court, one by one. Meanwhile, as the court proceedings heated up, the internet jumped in to add its own fuel to the fire. A sports account called ML Football saw an opening and took a swing, diving into the unfolding drama. The world of social media, as always, was quick to capitalize on the chaos, adding its own commentary to an already explosive situation. Eugene "Big U" Henley, a former leader of the Crips who later reinvented himself as a gang interventionist, is now facing a barrage of serious charges: murder, kidnapping, robbery, extortion, and fraud. However, one thing the feds are adamant about: his son, Dion Henley, is not connected to any of these alleged crimes. Still, his name kept popping up in media headlines, much to the dismay of fans who quickly rallied to defend him. Dion, who made a name for himself in the NFL, was an easy target for clout chasers looking to capitalize on his father's legal troubles. But the supporters weren't having it. One fan expressed deep admiration for Dion, calling him tough as nails and stating, "I would take 10 of him on our team if we could clone him." Across the board, the tone was clear: respect for Dion and frustration over dragging his name into this mess. While no one denied Big U might be facing serious time, connecting him to his son's career was deemed nothing more than clickbait and drama. However, the alleged murder was only the surface. What was really on the table was an intricate web of criminal operations, spanning decades, that was now coming to light. Big U's past wasn't just built on his involvement with gangs or his music label. It started much earlier, back in 1991, with a cocaine sting. But Big U didn't just show up to make a deal, he showed up to rob the undercover sheriff deputy running the operation. This bold move landed him a 13-year prison sentence, but it didn't break him. Instead, it built his legend. Inside and outside of prison, Big U became known not just as a member of the 60s, but as someone who had a hand in running it. When he got out in the early 2000s, he didn't just return to Los Angeles, he returned to power. Yet, freedom didn't equate to peace. Despite his transition into the role of a community leader, the LAPD and the FBI kept a watchful eye on him. Over the years, they tied him to more than 20 major investigations involving everything from guns to drugs, and even secretive meetings where gang violence was planned. Federal agents described him as the fixer of the streets, someone who could either calm a situation or escalate it depending on his needs. On the public front, however, Big U appeared as a reformist. He spoke at schools, led community events, and founded a nonprofit called Developing Options, aimed at helping youth avoid gang life. But authorities soon began to suspect that the nonprofit was nothing more than a front, a way for Big U to launder money. Donations from NBA players, large corporations, and city-funded programs were supposed to go toward helping kids, but instead, prosecutors claimed those funds were funneled directly into Big U's personal bank account. The nonprofit wasn't just a local problem, it became a federal issue when it was discovered that it was funded through the City of Los Angeles' Mayor's Gang Reduction and Youth Development Foundation, which also relied on federal funding. That's when the investigation turned from a local scandal to a full-blown criminal enterprise. IRS Special Agent Tyler Hatcher didn't mince words when he discussed the charges. He stated that the RICO case against Big U and his associates represented a clear pattern of illegal activity, from extortion to tax evasion, all under the umbrella of a tightly controlled criminal network. The criminal activity, according to the feds, stood in direct contrast to the nonprofit's stated mission of promoting gang prevention. LAPD Chief Jim McDonald echoed that sentiment, expressing pride in working with the FBI from the start of the investigation. As the money trail grew even darker, new revelations emerged. The feds uncovered that Big U had submitted fraudulent pandemic relief claims for his music business, Unique Music. On paper, he claimed to have earned $200,000 in profit in 2019, when, in reality, the business had lost $5,000 that year. Despite this, the money still came in thanks to fraudulent loan applications. Coupled with his earlier conviction in the 90s for robbing an undercover cop during a drug sting, the feds argue this pattern of behavior demonstrates a long history of criminal activity. Was the blueprint Henley followed to expand his empire? His manipulation of both street culture and the nonprofit system shows how deeply entrenched his influence was in LA, blurring the line between charity and exploitation. Henley's story serves as a stark reminder of how well-organized criminal enterprises can hide behind good intentions, taking advantage of public trust while orchestrating widespread deceit and manipulation. For years, the narrative around places like the YMCA and Boys Club in Crenshaw has been one of hope and community, but the truth, according to the feds, paints a much darker picture. Behind the facade of supporting youth programs, the real agenda was always about amassing money, power, and control. Just when the case began to gain traction, an unexpected voice resurfaced from the past. A clip of Schoolboy Q surfaced online. Although it wasn't directly connected to this case, it was undeniably relevant. In the video, Q talked about the notorious check-in game, the idea that artists and athletes have to check in with a powerful figure in Los Angeles before even stepping foot in the city. As he put it, everybody be checking in. That's your favorite thing to do, check in with somebody who's going to rob your stupid ass. His words hit differently now. Big U, known for funneling donations meant for kids into his own pockets, wasn't just accumulating wealth. He was playing the role of a street boss, building both influence and fear. It wasn't just about controlling money, it was about controlling people. This kind of power doesn't come overnight. It's built from the ground up, from a young Eugene Henley staking his claim in South Central, making sure his name was synonymous with authority. The streets talk and online comments don't hold back either. One user put it bluntly, Big U is dirty. If you don't check in, he'll have you robbed. Then, you'll be forced to hit him up just to get your stuff back. But when he gets it back, you'll pay a price. The comment hit hard, especially considering how the conversation about check-in culture came up in relation to the tragic death of PNB Rock in LA. While the headlines and contracts and stolen donations are part of the story, there's something much darker simmering beneath the surface. It all started, according to the feds, with a body in the desert. Ryan Williams, a rapper and Crenshaw football player, crossed paths with Big U. After Williams dropped a diss track, the feds say Henley took matters into his own hands, dragging him to Las Vegas. There, they claim, he shot Williams and dumped his body on Interstate 15, leaving no trace and showing no mercy. The story didn't stop there. The feds gathered chilling audio recordings, not of community work or charity efforts, but of talk about intimidation, hunting down enemies, and people begging for their lives. That wasn't just rumor, it was part of the case, solidifying the terrifying reality of Big U's reach. In the end, the conversation about nonprofits, funding, and donations becomes irrelevant. What remains is a chilling trail of violence, power struggles, fear, and lives lost when someone made the mistake of crossing the wrong person. Big U wasn't just taking money, he was taking lives.